Hello, good evening, good afternoon, good morning to everybody. Welcome to another episode of Cloudicorns, a podcast about everything that is good in the enterprise software and specifically in the cloud and Google Cloud. I'm here today with my friend Diego. Hi, Diego. How are you?
I'm doing great, Lucia. How about you? Long time no talk in this podcast. Of course, we talk pretty often, but yeah. So it has been a while since the last time that we recorded a podcast. Well, technically we did record a podcast. We never published it. So what's up? What's going
What's
on?
up?
What's
What's up?
up?
It's been a while, right? So it's been like 10 months. And we
Yes.
did, as you say, we did record a podcast. We never had the time to edit it because we went a little bit of script. I mean, we never had a script. It's always more like a talk, but I felt we said a few things that maybe people were not ready to hear. But we're gonna say them today, right? We have a bunch of topics. A lot has happened. You had a kid in the meantime, right? Like a lot has happened.
Yes, an actual kid, a physical kid, and then a legal entity kid, because I start my own company. But yes, indeed. And what about you? What's going on over there?
I had two cats that I added to my family. Yeah, yeah. I'm a cat lady. I've been traveling a lot, which I enjoy. Yeah, between the last time and now, I've been busy with Cortex
Mhm.
and specifically Salesforce. So that was one of the major milestones that I can be very proud of because I'm
Yes.
officially outside the SAP only uh, releases in
Okay,
Cortex.
but back up the track, as people says. What is Cortex? Because I don't think our wonderful audience knows. They they have the opportunity to know, but we never publish it. So what is Cortex?
That is true. That is true. And that's a great question. I'm glad you asked. So the Cortex framework is a set of solutions
Mhm.
that we have at Google Cloud that basically aim to help companies, enterprises that want to go into the cloud with their data and analytics.
Mhm.
And it started as a side project of mine. So before, when I started this over a year and a half ago, a little bit more, it was a side thing. And basically, it started as the response to people saying, okay, I have the SLT connector. I'm replicating data from my SAP systems into BigQuery. So now what? And at the same time, I had already made the decision that I wanted to do more than SAP. And the problem with that is when you stop doing something, you forget. And I have all this knowledge about all these abbreviations in German for tables and fields and how they relate to each other and how they do meaningful queries to produce something that businesses and users are interested in. So I started dumping that knowledge into SQL in BigQuery.
Mhm.
Then I realized that there was a demand for that because people were actually interested in using that to harvest insights from their data. So I started creating a deployer for it, a little bit of CI/CD pipeline. I crowdsourced help from a bunch of people inside Google and specifically Alphabet. People like Sujin that we had in our podcast before
The
talking
previous
about
podcast. Yeah.
exactly.
Mhm.
ABAP in Alphabet, like doing ABAP in an actual cloud environment. And I started crowdsourcing their ideas and their experience, bringing in some hardcore data and analytics people to see that the patterns and design principles were going okay. And this idea picked up. A lot of people started to see this demand as well, separately from what back then was called the Kittycorn. That's what it was called internally. It was not called Cortex. It was renamed, I think, for obvious reasons. I still like kitty corn, and you'll see traces of the
I
kitty
could
corn all
imagine
over
there
the
is some
place.
kitty corns, spread, dust all over the GitHub repository.
Yes, yes, you'll see that our images, for example, they have a kitty corn related name, our Docker images. So yeah, basically that became an actual solution, and it evolved to bring in more people and more stuff, so to speak. So the whole point is to accelerate the journey of people who have been stuck with very old stacks, technology stacks, and want to go into the cloud, and they do not know exactly how to start. So yeah, that started with SAP. I lost count of how many models we have. To be honest, at this point, we used to count them.
Yeah.
The first time we went live, we had about 50 models,
Hmm.
and those were for ECC and S4.
Yeah.
And we're way past that now. We have changed data capture capabilities. We have multiple customers in production. Some of them are actual public references. So yeah, that baby has grown. And it's not just my baby anymore. There are a lot of engineers that are adding to it, and there's a lot of teams that doing the go to market and all that kind of stuff that I really suck at. So yeah, it's open source, by
Hmm.
the way, and that was something that I'm also very proud of because I was the strongest proponent of that, and I carried it into the open source. So you'll see that on GitHub. I do most of the releases most of the
Hmm.
time.
Yeah.
And that's because reasons. I'm the only one that wants to put up with the process.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's been great. And well, what I was mentioning is that we had a release for Salesforce right
Yes.
around December last year,
Hmm.
and that was eye-opening. I already knew, like, I had been outside the SAP stack for a while, so I already knew other stacks, especially the
Hmm.
Google stack. I mean, I've been at Google for more than 3 years now, but the thing that I really enjoyed about Salesforce was, as a developer with our background, right? How easy it was to onboard, and how easy it was to consume data, and how easy it was to understand the data. So and there was a point in which I started doing that, and I'm like, is this a thing? Like, are people actually struggling to get insights out of their data? And it turns out they're not. And that's why the models that's why, of course, we listen to customers and what they actually need, and that's what the models are based on, right? Something that is not that easy to achieve, and that's why we launched Salesforce as a workload in Cortex. But to me, it was amazing to interact with such a huge piece of enterprise software that I was already using as a user,
Yeah.
because we use it
You
internally
have
at,
it. You
at
have it
Google.
internally. Hmm. Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah. Hmm.
And yeah, but it was like eye-opening to, oh, this is actually very easy for me to do an API. It's all documented, and it's easy to find. Personally, I appreciate the amount of little animals and mascots that it has, but that's a
They
me
do
thing,
have. Yeah.
probably.
One thing that I wanted to ask you, because probably not all our audience knows a little bit about Salesforce and the history, and this the technical capabilities of it, right? So it's it is as we all call it CRM, but it's more than that. The term CRM is no more since 10 years ago. But for those who have been a while, like Lucy and I, the old term was CRM. And what would you say, in the SAP side, we always work with this very complex data structures. There's multiple tables, right? I recently have have been having some discussions about TDMS, the old TDMS, the SAP TDMS, and there is no solution for S4, right? There is not a one clear solution for it. And funny enough, in the different blogs from SCN, you can see SAP consultants from the professional services side discussing with the product management from TDMS on the consultants say, like, I'm using TDMS for S4, and the product team say, like, please don't do that. That's horrible. Don't do it. It's not prepared for it. And it's just taking a look at how a business object is formed in SAP, how complex it is, how many tables, and so on and so forth. Um, how is the data model in a system like Salesforce? That is, I would say a SaaS solution, cloud first approach type of thing, right? So, what did you encounter that make your life? First of all, it's definitely refreshing, most likely, but also make your life a little bit easier to deal with that with the data model.
Yeah, I think you said it at the beginning. It's cloud first, right? So everything is accessible through an API. The API is easily discoverable. You don't have, of course, you have versions, so APIs behave like APIs are supposed to behave. And the data model is straightforward in the sense that the API handles what it needs to handle, right? So accounts are accounts, and contacts are contacts, and customers are customers, and that's it. And it's documented, and the changes are documented. And of course, you get emails when something's going to get broken, like you should with any API. Um, and I mean, one of the things that was also refreshing is that they keep a change timestamp, which
Okay.
seems like a very menial and obvious thing.
But
But I think that is one of the reasons why it's so hard to get data outside of SAP, because you cannot capture the changes or recognize that a change has happened in the system. So that replicating data outside of it becomes a nuisance, right? So you need to resort to triggers in the database and a bunch of other stuff before you actually can recognize that a change has happened. This happens in Salesforce out of the box, which made our process of building scripts for change data capture very easy. The person that So there was an evolution on this internally as well, and of course we had people like actual experts on Salesforce and board. This was not just me building stuff, of course, lucky for all of us. But one of our engineers that was doing the CC process basically chopped the two stages in half, because we didn't see the reason for us to have the loading first and then the change in the capture processing. We saw that the APIs behave consistently enough that we can do everything in one step, which is, of course, great in the sense that it's easier to maintain, it's easier to reconcile, it's easier to find issues with the data, it's easy to find issues with the payloads, and it's less costly as well because you're not processing data so much. Um, and that is a shout out to Vlad Kolesnikov. He's one of my colleagues. You'll see him in our GitHub. Someday, hopefully, we can bring some of those people in my engineering team, and
absolutely.
without compromising them with our
We
views.
promise not to ask the questions that otherwise we can cut them. It's okay. But okay, and let me ask you a question because I'm a little bit familiarized with the Cortex framework, the SAP flavor of it, and the data foundation. Uh, so what was the approach when working with Salesforce, right? So what are you trying to help customers to get out of it for Salesforce?
So the main point for the Cortex framework in general is first provide an operational layer out of the box that allows you to get insights out of BigQuery, right? So
Yes.
the focus in Cortex as a framework in general, you'll see that as a principle, the only hard dependency that we have in the entire stack is BigQuery. Um, this is what I call the principle of openness. We do not care how the data got there. If you do not want to use our out of the box scripts to consume the APIs and you instead want to use Salesforce framework for that and use like an Apex pop subcolor, that is okay. As long as the data is the same that is available in the APIs, we
Yeah.
even provide a mapper in case there's like slight field changes, and something similar happens with SAP. As long as the data is the same that you have in the tables with the same data types and the same names, it will work.
Yeah.
If you don't follow that, then you're going to be in trouble. You're going to need to make changes because you need dates to behave like dates and floats to behave like floats and that kind of stuff. So aggregations work, but yeah, that's an entirely different different issue. So with Salesforce as well as with SAP, the main point is let's provide a foundation. In our case, the first release was focused on the sales part. And
Mhm.
in that foundation, the idea is to evolve this and add external data sets that are available to Google or made available more easily to Google. So a great example of that is Google Trends. You'll see
Mhm.
in what we call external DAGs, and this is going to change probably by the time we we edit this podcast. But there's an external processing script for the Google Trends that are coming for search, and we build a script that joins those trends to what's going on in your enterprise workload. So the whole point is not just to get into the operational stuff. I mean, operational reporting has been there forever. It is a need for customers, but it's not the primary need anymore. I mean, it's been fulfilled by a bunch of different solutions, and we don't want to exactly get on the way of that. We want to be able to add more data sets and as well add some machine learning, some intelligence out of the information. So
Yeah.
today with Salesforce, we started with that operational layer, and there's these initial data sets that we started to put into the foundation, and I can think of trends, weather data, and if even if you go into, for example, the Analytics Hub, we documented how to start making integrations with Analytics Hub. So we're watching for making that kind of stuff easy. And the beauty about Analytics Hub is basically anybody can produce a data set. So that's where we're getting our weather data from. Now, granted, if you don't want to use the data set that is available in Analytics Hub, that is also okay. I mean,
Yeah.
the
You
thing
get your
is
own. Yeah.
configured exactly. You can get
Yeah.
your own. You can contract with another provider, and nobody will get mad. It's open source for that reason, so that you can add your own spice into it
Hmm.
and own it.
Yeah.
So yeah, the whole point with Salesforce is to continue down that path.
Okay. So what I'm getting from you is that life after SAP is not that bad after all.
No, it's not that bad. I mean, I think we all, you and I know this, and it's very obvious. Talking to some other people, and I was in Waldorf last week, right? So I
Yeah.
just came back from a trip to Waldorf to the mothership, and it was a lot of fun. It was great to see a bunch of colleagues, former colleagues there. Um, but there was a point in time, and this was over a decade ago, in which any problem you would throw at me I would resolve with SAP's technology called Stack,
Hmm.
right? So anything you would throw at me, I would use a mix of ABAP, HANA, Fiori, whatever, right? Whatever tool set I had in the SAP technology stack, and and that's it. What I think happened for you, for me, and a bunch of other people is we found out that there's choice.
Yeah.
And it's
Yeah.
not good or bad, it's choice. And I always say
Hmm.
the same thing. SAP has fantastic software. And I'm very thankful for my career path with SAP. But it's not the only software available. So I think the important part is for somebody to be educated enough to understand what the options are. And if you do not want to get educated, to understand that you may be missing out, and well, an assumption of risk that you do. I'm very curious, and I think
Yeah.
so are you.
Yeah. Yeah.
So if there's something new, even when I was with SAP, every time there was something new, I would go and chase that because at
Yeah.
least I want to understand if it's good or bad. There's a lot of fads, and I think we're seeing that in the AI space. So it's interesting as well. Part of maturity means taking the risk of not going into a fad because you think it's a fad.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, yeah, absolutely. Exactly. On that point, what I can say is that there is definitely, a different path that, we already talked in this podcast many times, and most likely on Twitter, in front of everyone. But it comes with a price, right? So it means, leave your comfort zone, or whatever you feel comfy with, SC80, or if you're more modern with your Eclipse, and just go into something different. And to be honest, like, SAP is embracing some of these more newer technologies. I would say not the whole community is going at it because there is a clear cut between certain professionals who are okay with what they know, and then the ones that are always pursuing the new stuff, not necessarily the shiny stuff. Going to your point, but the new stuff and just trying it out and sometimes just even finding best of breed, right? So just trying to find the best of the best and just making it work with what we already know. that is why I like the Cortex framework and the ideas behind the philosophy behind the you know working with openness and with BigQuery. There's no contractual obligations of doing anything else. Just put my data there and then exploiting it in the way that I want. So from that point of view, is pretty cool. In that note, so it's just for everyone to know, this is the 18th of March. So so last week or the week before, I don't remember anymore, because I'm not sleeping per usual.
Of
I think
course.
Datasphere was released. Was it last week or the week before? Last
I
week.
think it was last week.
Yeah,
Yeah,
there you go. Thank you.
yeah, because I was in Waldorf. Yeah, when
Yeah,
the
yeah.
the ball of data was there, and I was laughing because right now the ball in Waldorf is not accessible because they're making every
Okay,
time
well, you
I
stop,
will
stop,
go
stop.
into
We need to clarify this because nobody's going to understand if they never went to Waldorf. So when you enter the SAP office in Waldorf, there is a huge bowl, like a huge bowl, like it's bigger
yeah
than me, and I'm pretty big, and it's just rolling in water.
yeah
And okay, and it's not accessible. That's what you're saying.
it's not accessible anymore because every time I go to the mothership, I like to
Yeah.
take a picture touching the ball. It's a thing. Don't judge me. We should actually use it as the cover of this podcast so that
Yeah.
people know what we're talking about. The ball was not accessible, so I was joking that they took the ball, and that is the data sphere. That is the ball of data. Um, so yeah, that was launched last week.
Hmm.
I haven't had the chance to figure out if this is an actual thing, to be honest, or it's just a rename or a rebrand. Uh,
I think that well, I know the name, and I know kind of what it does, but I think it is a rename because one of the things that was launched last week after the actual session, where was Julia and Jurgen. I would say for the most part was Julia White and Jurgen Mueller, is that the majority of people who had data warehouse cloud will now have Datasphere. I think because I'm not so much into those specific products. I think the idea is great, right? So semantic metadata, and all the stuff is indirectly like different proponents or players in the industry have been trying to do from the outside of SAP, and now SAP is coming with their own flavor, and of course, with a little bit more of horsepower, I would say, since they own all these things. But as soon as I see this thing, yeah, I saw the chat, the session. I thought of Cortex, I thought of BigQuery, I thought of Synapse, from Azure. I thought of TDMS, right? So because the idea of encapsulating and having semantic meaning to whatever you're doing, whether it is by just creating some views or giving some meaning on a different platform, it is kind of what the customers are asking for, right? So they need to have more control over their data. They need to exploit it in different ways to trust data sets, as you were saying. In the case of Salesforce, you have some uh, Google Trends, right, or having some weather information. But then we can go into financial to the finance information, to open bank APIs, as we have been talking, and so on and so forth. So it's really kind of doing what the people want, right? So it's the people champions. So from that point of view, I think it's great. But I'm not so well educated as of now, right? I need a couple of more weekends, to first catch up with all the work that I have to do, and then a couple of more weekends to study this wonderful new thing. But I'm sure we're gonna be talking in one of our upcoming podcasts for sure.
Absolutely,
Um,
yeah. Yeah, maybe. I mean, I know, or I can tell that people should be looking forward to Sapphire.
okay.
That's all I can tell.
Anything?
Um,
Okay, that's it, right? Okay. I see.
yes,
I
I
see.
just want to
I see a
tease.
red dot on the wall. So don't speak anymore.
Right, right. That's all I can tease.
Hmm.
But yeah, I think as you're saying, like the semantic layer or the exploitation of data in a smarter or easier way is very relevant. The concept of the data mesh is something that keeps popping up, and a lot of customers already have, and they've been building what What I think is going to make it easier is to democratize it, right? To make it easier for anybody to have that without investing millions of dollars in consulting and ages before you actually get to that.
Yeah.
Maybe, I mean, you tell me because I know you've been playing with GPT, with the GPT-4. Um,
Mm.
how is that going?
It's going. So I mean, to be honest, I'm very interested in these things since I would say I don't know 7 or 8 years. My problem is always time, and as you know, as I get older, and I have a family, I wasn't kidding at the beginning. I actually had a baby boy in August, and I actually quit my old company and found my own company. So it's hard though, but I think machine learning AI for the most part for the enterprise has a lot of power, but there is a lot of things they're not really well understand in terms of data privacy, especially between continents. Like the way data privacy works in Canada or Europe is so different than in the US and Latin America, to the point that it's not even close to each other. So right now everybody wants to write the SAP Chat GPT for SAP blog, and of course, it's just a bunch of bananas to say something that it doesn't sound so bad. I think I commend everybody just give it a try. I will say just don't go for the likes and the shares. Just go for the content. Just spend some more time. Like basically, ChatGPT has a lot of potential. Everything around AI and ML, requires for you to have a lot of ethics. So you need to be careful what you do with it. It's just not like, let's call an API and now
Yeah.
let's send an email with customer data, and then you interact with OpenAI. You share your customer data with a third party that you don't have authorization to. And also, you don't know how many hoops it goes until it actually gets to OpenAI. So I think this is a great step forward. Um, there is a lot of thinking to do from that point of view, but I'm definitely going at it right now. Before we joined the podcast, I'm working with something called Llama Index that it basically helps you to index data that is not part of the model, so you can actually inject that node by sending it to OpenAI first, and just save tokens and also privacy. But at the end of the day, the way this works is just you need to get your own model, deploy it in your own infrastructure, and don't use OpenAI for your enterprise software, please. Unless you
Or
unless you do B2C and you don't care, but if it's B2B, do not use OpenAI APIs, please. That's the message for today. I was around this. But yeah. So what's your take so far on the whole buzzing? Because there is a lot of like
yeah,
noise with this.
yeah, yeah. There's a lot of buzzing. There's a lot of who does something first. Um, and again, the views are my own. I want to caveat with this is not my employer's opinion, and this has
Yeah,
nothing to
yeah,
do with. I mean, all of that. This
yeah,
podcast has nothing to do with Google. It's not sponsored or anything like that. I know that there's a lot of progress internally. There's a lot of applications of this, but as usual, there's ethical concerns, right? And for lack of firing the ethics AI team, I don't want to talk about who has done that, but we've seen that in the news as well. I think that transparency is going to become a huge issue. These models learn from available data, and it's important to understand what that is, right? In the very early stages of GPT, I remember training or seeing models that were trained based on Twitter and what was available in Twitter back then,
that
and
that
and the
was
models
that one
were
was from Microsoft. I remember it just
the
burned to
the
pieces in less than
racism,
a
like,
day.
yeah. I mean, the thing
Just blow
was
up in a day. It was a mess. Yeah, it was a
it
mess.
was
Yeah.
terrible, right? And like it
Hmm.
was full of hate. It took all of the worst places in which a human mind can go, and
Yeah.
basically was trained on that. So if you don't have the transparency to understand how something was trained, then I wouldn't apply it to anything, even if it
Yeah.
seems to produce the right thing.
Yeah.
regardless of who's building that.
Yeah,
And
absolutely, absolutely, absolutely. I mean, this GPT, the paper for whoever that's is not really. So Chat GPT comes from the GPT part of the Chat GPT is Transformers, and Transformers is a paper from Google that was published in 2017 or 2018, I think. So it's basically Google making it open for everybody to use. So I'm pretty sure they're pretty ahead of
yeah,
everyone else, but what I will say, what can make me rest at night is that for enterprise, the enterprise cases that comes from to mind is like, tell me why this dump, right? I don't want, I don't want to check it. Just tell me why this dump, right? So it's everything is so technical and so in kind of in a corner, but I wouldn't be a person who's using this for chat. I don't want to be,
yeah.
a telecom company that is like, oh, let me, outsource my customer care to this. Not yet, at least, because
And we already see a little bit of that. And I don't know about you, but I find it extremely annoying when I have to go past the bot. It's
yeah,
like
yeah,
if I'm talking to you, I have already searched everything that I need to search.
yeah, yeah.
There's no chance I'm picking up the phone. I hate talking on the phone. If
How
I'm
how 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 do
calling
you try
you,
to sham the bot? So the way that I do is just I write representative, and say
yeah, well, I do
representative.
that, and it goes like, well, to redirect to the right person, what do you want to do? Representative. And
Representative.
I become a full blown Karen with the
Yeah,
poor bot.
yeah,
Um, and then I have to calm down when I actually talk to the representative. But I
yeah.
mean, today that is definitely not working, at least for me as a consumer.
It's no, it's not. It's not. It's not. I think it was last week. I have Fivertel, for those who are in Argentina and they know it. You know it pretty well because it sucks. And I have 1,000 megas upload, download, and 30 megas download, which is a very asymmetric. And I was having 60. 60 download, 60 megabytes of download, and I was like, "What the hell is going on?" So they were not picking up, and I just went to the bot. The bot is in WhatsApp, and I was like, representative. And it's like, oh, give me your document number so I can connect you to the representative. I put it, and it's like, oh, you didn't give me a document number. Give me the document number. And I just write representative. I just put like this amount, this size of representative. It's just hang the whole WhatsApp bot. And I was like, uh,
You
so
broke it.
yeah, at least I don't go empty-handed. I don't go sad into the sunset that my connection is shitty and my provider doesn't care. But yeah, so there's going to be a lot, and I will say to our audience, just like try to go through the noise. There is like a good community behind some cool projects, for the most part all open source, so it is worth taking a look at it, but just be creative, but at the same time just be careful, because there is a lot of nonsense around this,
As usual.
as usual.
In our
But
field.
yeah, but I look forward to write the blog number 40 about ChatGPT for SAP, Diego edition. So just wait for it. It's coming up pretty soon.
Well,
Uh,
I mean, that it's still not gonna be the how to do Excel downloads from ABAP.
you never know. I saw the other day someone using ChatGPT to ask, is this male is female or male, in an Excel, cell. So already controversial topics and already, uh, I don't know. Science just works in mysterious ways sometimes. But yeah, to be honest, like because I have been following the field for such a long time, the thing that I'm super excited is DeepMind, really. And the people at DeepMind, they're just doing like insane things. Like the protein fold calculation is just like that's what I really, and it's just a complete different way of working. It's not LLMs, it's just neural networks and agents, and it's wonderful. But again, I just need a second life because I don't have
Yeah,
enough time
yeah,
to learn all that.
true.
But if someone in the audience is interested about machine learning or AI apply, just take a look at DeepMind, and just if you are not into computer science by any means, just go and check their bot of Star Trek, just destroying professional players at Star Trek. So that's the thing. Um, Looking at the time,
Yes, it's been a fantastic episode. I'm
it has been,
hoping
yeah.
that, yeah, I'm hoping that we can do this again, not in 10 months, like probably
Ho-
closer.
Hopefully in 4 weeks at the latest. Let's try to keep ourselves in good shape. We really miss doing these type of things. We also miss sleep, but we're gonna try to do it, guys. So we are gonna try to do it. We also try to keep the 30 minutes mark, so it is easy to consume. So yeah,
Absolutely. And if people want to hear about something specific, please let us know. We're going to have a very special guest for the next episode, but I don't want to jinx it. So do stay tuned in our social media and LinkedIn. And yes, looking forward to another chat.
wonderful. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Lucia. Have a good night. Have a good day. Have a good afternoon. Take care.
Thank
Bye.
you.